Hi, it's Molly here at Elevated Mind and Movement, and today for Yoga for Mental Health, we are going to work through the chakra system. So if you're not familiar with the chakras are energy balls or vortices that travel along the spine that help us regulate our emotions and our energy as we move through our lives. The chakras correspond to different parts of the spinal cord and tend to correspond with different events in our lives or growth patterns in our lives. So we're just going to kind of skim the surface, but we're also going to do a practice today that helps balance your root chakra. That's what we're going to start with today. So today's practice is about Muladhara, the root chakra. The root chakra is often described as being red and full of earth energy. So it's a very grounding force in our lives. It's at the tailbone or the base of the spine. So it's the root because it's at the bottom, but it also encompasses the area of our legs and our feet. So again, the parts of our body that connect us to the earth. These are our roots. So the root chakra is tied to our sense of feeling connected to the earth, to our sense of belonging in our lives. So some of the main things that the root chakra focuses on or deals with is our feelings of safety. It's tied to our survival instinct. So kind of the battle that our root chakra goes throughout our lives is fear versus trust. So when our root chakra is balanced, we have this sense of belonging. I have a right to be here. I have a right to have my needs met. I have a right to feel financial security. I have a right to exist. I have a right to take up this space. When we don't feel like we have those rights, we have fear. Fear of not having enough, fear of not belonging, fear of not being enough. So what we are trying to do when we balance our root chakra is really focus on grounding, that sense of being present and in our body. So the lower chakras, and we'll get into this more as we address each chakra, the lower chakras are really about our connection to earth, to the physical plane, to our bodies. So the feeling of grounding is being in our body, being present. Now, when we're not grounded, we're up in our mind. We're thinking. Our thoughts are all over the place. We're kind of zoned out. We're not really aware of what's happening around us or within us in that moment because our mind is in a totally different moment. So grounding is really being able to get out of our heads and come back into our body, being present in this moment. There's another type of grounding that I bring up because it's also related to connection to the earth and our root chakra. It's called earthing. And the idea behind earthing is that we are electrical systems. We know that, our brain and our heart, they all have this electrical, I'm forgetting the word for it right now. I don't want to say shield. Like an electrical system that keeps everything running. And so just like the electricity in your house, you have grounded outlets. You have grounded lines beneath your house or in the ground that help if your house were to be hit by lightning. It would ground the electricity so that it wouldn't blow up your house. Basically, electrical things need to be grounded, or there's all this energy going all over the place. So if our bodies are electrical systems, we also need to be grounded. And in our day-to-day life, we don't spend a lot of time grounding ourselves. When we walk throughout the world, we're usually wearing shoes, or we're walking on carpets, floors. There's insulation that separates us from all of nature. Even when we're outside, oftentimes we're walking on concrete. So we've really kind of separated ourselves. So it's not as easy for us to ground as maybe it was in the past for our ancestors. So earthing is a way of grounding, and earthing is simply walking barefoot. So if that's something that you'd be interested in trying, and the climate where you live allows for it right now, after this practice, you may want to go outside and just stand in the earth, or put your hands, both your hands and your feet, just touching, and see how that feels. See if you notice a shift in your body or in your energy. Do you feel more grounded? Now, if you live in an environment where going outside and putting your feet on the ground would be really cold or really muddy, we're gonna do some emotional grounding with our practice today. So we're gonna start seated, and remembering that our root chakra is at the base of our tailbone. When we're seated in a position like this, we're really kind of starting that grounding process. It's the base of our tailbone that is making contact with the earth right now. So just kind of rocking back and forth on your hips, and just sort of noticing as you rock toward the back of the tailbone, how that feels. And as you rock toward the front of the tailbone, how does that feel? Can you sense where the tailbone is and where that base of the tailbone is? Because that's our area of focus today. So kind of shifting your weight around, find a comfortable seated position, and maybe one where you kind of are aware of that area around the base of the tailbone. Now, because we are going to be working with the base of the tailbone, which also runs down our legs and our feet to connect to the earth for our root chakra, we're going to be kind of opening up the feet and the legs a little bit before we get started. So let's start with a simple seated side stretch. So we'll start with our right hand out from our body and our left hand grounded, and just reach up and over, and we're going to just reach over to the left and feel that nice stretch coming down the right side of our body. Really feel like you're pulling kind of up and out of that hip area, so that we're loosening up the area around the tailbone and around our hips, so that our legs can be free to move around and to ground us. One more breath here. And come on up. Placing your right hand on the ground, we're going to repeat that stretch over to the left or to the right for our left side. Right and left. Now, as you're stretching, while we're opening this area, keep in mind that you are grounding down through that base of the tailbone, so your hip's not coming up off of the ground. We want to really connect that base of the tailbone to the ground. And come on up. Okay. So we're going to open up the feet a little bit. We don't spend a ton of time or energy focusing on our feet most of the time. We're usually just walking around on them. But because this is part of our root system that we're focused on today, I really want you to feel the sensations that come up through your feet, through that feedback system. So, whichever leg is in front, just kind of pick up your foot here and start to give it a little rub. We're not trying to take it apart here, but just kind of give yourself a nice little foot massage. When is the last time you had a foot massage? we're in quarantine, so it's probably been a while. But really kind of focusing on your foot. We don't pay attention to our feet a whole lot, so are there sensitive areas of your foot as you're paying attention to it right now? Are there areas that maybe you need to work a little harder to get sensation? What feels good to the foot? What's maybe not its favorite thing? Move your ankle around, kind of rotate it a little bit. Get some blood flow down there. And then taking your hand, you're just gonna kind of thread your fingers through your toes. Just create a little bit of separation between your toes. And you're not gonna crank back and forth or anything, but just sort of gently let your toes kind of go limp. And with your hand, you're just gonna move your toes back and forth. Gently, gently. But what does it feel like for your toes to have a little room from each other? A lot of times they're crammed in shoes. Give them a little space. And to not have to be making the movements for themselves, but to allow you to just kind of run them through their range of motion. Give it a little final rub. Maybe warm up your feet if they're kind of cold. And now that we have this leg on top, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna pick the leg up and kind of put the foot in the elbow here, like it's a baby. And your other arm is just gonna kind of come around underneath the knee. And we're just gonna rock. Let the leg just kind of be heavy in your arms. And you're just gonna rock it gently back and forth, just like you're rocking a baby to sleep. But you're kind of loosening up that hip area a little bit, ever so gently. All right, and then we're going to gently put that leg down, change the crossing of our legs, and now repeat on the other side. Picking up this foot, giving it a little love, some attention. So when we think about that root chakra, most of the time we're focusing on the base of the spine, but knowing that because it's connected to the earth, those roots are like the roots of a tree. They reach down. Or if we're talking about grounding kind of like through electricity, every time you plug something into an outlet, it's got those two prongs that plug in. Those are our legs. They're the roots. And our feet are the part that actually connects with everything, every surface that we walk across. So it's important to remember that our sense of belonging and our sense of feeling connected to the earth isn't just about what we see when we look around us or what we touch with our hands, but very much has to do with the sensation running through our feet and how our feet connect to the earth. Do some ankle circles here, loosen up that whole area. Thread the fingers through the toes, gently, gently. Give them a little space. Just sort of shift gently back and forth, giving those toes a little bit of a wiggle, giving them each their own individual space to be in. Social distancing. My big toe wants some social distance from the first toe there. All right, and then we're gonna cradle this leg. So again, bringing the foot and really kind of supporting the ankle here so that it's not just kind of hanging there. And then bringing the other arm around to support the knee. And we just rock back and forth, gently rocking our little baby leg. Not to sleep. Wake up, we've got work for you. All right. And then set that one down. So now we're gonna open up the feet in a slightly different way. Now that we've warmed them up and we've kind of given them some love, we're going to open the bottoms of our feet. And this pose is called toe stand. So how we do this, you're gonna kind of be seated in this position. But instead of having your toes flat against the ground, what we're going to be doing is coming up onto our knees, curling the toes under, and you may need to kind of reach back to get those little pinky toes down there. And then you're just gonna sit back on your heels. Now, this gets intense pretty quickly. So if you notice that this starts feeling painful, you can ease up by coming up onto the knees. Or if you like a little bit of sensation, but maybe this is too much, you can sort of tilt your body forward to take the pressure off. But we're gonna sit here for a little bit because it takes a while for the body to really open up. So while we're here in this spot, again, thinking about how our chakras run up the spine. So trying to keep your spine elongated. We want those channels to be open. And we're also connecting down to the root of the earth to feel grounded. All right, if you feel like you've had enough, come up onto your knees and gently uncurl those toes and sit back on them for a moment. Maybe rock back and forth a little bit. Get some feeling, wiggle the toes back. All right, so now we're gonna wake up the spine a little bit with some cat-cow. So bringing your knees about hips width apart and your hands right below your shoulders. We're gonna inhale and we're gonna arch the back, looking up. Feel that tailbone kind of reaching up. And exhale, you're gonna bring the belly to the spine, curve the back, and now that tailbone is gonna tilt down a little bit. Inhale, arch back, tailbone up toward the sky. Exhale, tailbone back down. Now we're gonna keep doing this with the breath. So at your own pace, but as you come into this arched up position, this one's cow. Let's go back into cat here for a second because I'm talking too much. All right, coming back to cow. Really feel like you're opening up across the hips and back. You're really kind of stretching that area, giving some space to that tailbone. A lot of times we're sitting and that tailbone is closed down, or we've got our legs crossed and that tailbone is closed off. So now we're going to take this opportunity to kind of really open it up, get some width going across the lower back to open up that hip area and make some room for the tailbone. Couple more here. And come back to a neutral spine. We're gonna tuck the toes under and then reach those hips up and back for our down dog. You may wanna open your legs out or your feet out a little bit further on your mat. See if you can aim that tailbone up toward the crease of where the wall meets the ceiling. And again, we're looking for that opening, that width across the lower back. Think about this pose, instead of being about the hips or the arms, really think about this leading from the tailbone today. couple more breaths here. And on your next exhale, walk up toward the top of your mat and come to a standing position. All right, kind of shake it out a little bit. Now that we've woken up our feet, we're gonna do just a regular mountain pose. But notice how maybe it feels a little different today because we're paying attention more to our feet and to the lower part of our body. So bringing your feet maybe about hips width apart. And we've gotten all that movement into our feet. So noticing what does the mat feel like under your feet? Do you have more sensation in your feet than normal? Wiggle your toes a little bit. Can you pick your toes up and sort of wiggle them without your balance kind of going all over the place? So now what would it feel like to sort of build our mountain pose from the bottom up? So noticing we're gonna start with our heels today because I feel like my back body needs a little love. So feeling the weight kind of in our heels and our heels connecting to the mat or to the ground. Really see if you can focus your attention onto where the heels are connecting to the ground. And now we're gonna shift our weight forward slightly, not taking it completely off of those heels. Those heels are still connected. But now we're gonna focus to the knuckles of our big toe and our pinky toe. And can we feel some weight moving into those and kind of locking us to the ground and connecting us there? Can you notice your attention sort of move to the outer sides of your feet and then to maybe the inner sides of your feet? And then, can we focus that energy into the middle of the foot and almost feel like those arches are kind of pulling up? So our roots are connected to the ground and they're pulling nourishment up through our legs. Notice what your legs feel like. Do they feel, can you bend them? Can you straighten them without moving the position of your feet? Those feet are locked in. They're connected. And they're drawing that nourishment up through the lower legs, up through the knees, up to the hips. And as we draw that upward, can we just stand here like a tree and feel how our roots are really pulling up from the earth? Since we've got roots and we're pulling up from the earth, why don't we try a little tree pose? So kind of shifting your weight over to your left leg, just kind of peel that right foot up off the ground. We'll stay low, so you can even keep your toes on the ground as kind of a kickstand, or just come up to maybe the calf. Find a position for your arms that feels comfortable. You can have them here at heart center, or you can reach them up like you are the branches of the tree. But again, still holding on to that feeling of the roots are digging into the ground and pulling nourishment up. So as you are stretching up to reach the sky, you have the ability to do that because you have these nice strong roots holding you in place. So let's bring the right foot down. Shift our weight and our attention over to that right foot now. See if we can get that locked in feeling again, where our roots are really holding us steady. And we're gonna bring the left leg up. So again, we can either kickstand here with the toes on the ground, or bring it up to our calf. Take a moment, feel the roots, find the position that works for your arms. This side's feeling a little wonkier for me, so I think I'm gonna bring my toes down. Maybe instead of a tree today, on this side I'm more of one of those little cute manicured bushes. A little closer to the ground. Feeling locked in and stable. And then let that pose go from your body. So, bringing our feet back to kind of root into the ground, you might want to bring your feet a little closer together to create a nice stable base, because we're going to do chair. So, as we sit back into the hips, continue thinking about leading with the tailbone and the roots, really pulling that energy from the earth up through the feet and through the legs to hold us stable. So bring your arms up overhead on an inhale, and on an exhale, sit your hips back. And notice how this feels. Do you feel stable here? Can you feel that tailbone, that nice width across the lower back, opening up that space for the tailbone, and the feet are still locked in? Inhale, come on up. Exhale, arms down. All right, so now we're going to bend the legs again, but we're gonna bring it down closer to the ground. So for this one, you may wanna have some blocks available to kind of put under your butt. I did not bring any blocks to the office with me today, so we're gonna see how long it takes before I fall over. So bring your feet out, kind of to the edges of your mat. Your toes can be off the mat, maybe heels on the mat. You can go a little bit wider out, you can come a little bit closer. We're gonna come down into a squat, and so feel around for where your sweet spot is. It may be just coming down to about here today. That's fine. If you can get lower, great. If you can come all the way down, awesome. I'm not gonna do that today. I'm gonna come to about here. This is feeling pretty good for me today. But again, we're leading with the tailbone. We're giving that tailbone some space. Now, our roots are locked in. We're drawing that energy up, and we're opening that space for the tailbone. And if you start to sink down a little bit lower, excellent. One more inhale, exhale, and lower yourself back down to the ground. All right, so we are going to just roll back onto our backs. Keep the feet on your mat, knees bent, and you want your heels to kind of line up with those sits bones. And from this position, really again, feel those roots through the feet, locking you in. And leading with the tailbone, start to lift the tailbone. You want to aim the tailbone kind of at the corner of the wall and the ceiling across from you. So take a deep breath, inhale, exhale. On your next inhale, start to peel the back up off the ground, leading with the tailbone into bridge pose. Give yourself a nice inhale and exhale here. And on your next exhale, release back down. All right, maybe wiggle the hips a little bit side to side. Let's try that again. On your next inhale, peeling from the base of the spine, the tailbone up. Lift the hips. And exhale back down. All right, with your feet still on the mat, we're just going to windshield wiper the legs. So just tipping your hips over, you're going to drop your legs over to the left. Give yourself a little bit of a twist here. Inhale back up. Exhale over to the left or the right. The opposite of whichever one you started with. Inhale back up. First side. Nice exhale. Inhale back up to center and down to the second side. Inhale. Exhale. Bring your legs or your knees back up to center and then stretch out the legs. Find yourself a nice comfortable position. Maybe let the legs kind of roll out a little bit. Arms out to the side. And we're going to take a nice little Shavasana here. So find a spot where you feel comfortable resting and let your body melt into the ground. Feel how the ground beneath you supports you, and let your body just feel like it's melting into the ground, spreading itself out and becoming part of the ground. Completely supported, completely comfortable. Allow your breathing to deepen and slow. And we'll rest here for a few moments. Allow your breath to deepen a little bit. You bring a little movement back into your fingers and your toes as you slowly bring some awareness back to your body. Keeping your eyes closed as you shift your body around. Whenever you feel ready, you can roll over to your right side. Stay there for a moment or two. And when you feel ready, press yourself back up to a seated position. And you can keep your eyes closed. Find yourself in a comfortable seated position and bring your attention back to that base of the spine. And imagine a warm red ball of glowing light right up the tailbone. And just focus your attention on that glowing red ball of light right at your tailbone. And maybe you notice that it pulses slightly. As you inhale, maybe the ball gets a little bit bigger. And as you exhale, maybe that ball glows a little brighter. With each inhale, as that ball gets a little bit bigger, I want you to imagine that red light reaching down from your tailbone into the ground beneath you. And just like roots, that red ball of light reaches down deeper and deeper into the ground so that you can feel yourself really connected. And as your red root system moves further and further toward the center of the earth, imagine that the center of the earth has a ball of white, pure, energetic light waiting. And with your next inhale, picture that white light coming up your root system and entering your body so that you're glowing with this pure white light. And as you exhale, you're sending those red roots down to the center of the earth to gather up more of that white, pure light. With each inhale, you're gathering more of that pure white energetic light. And with each exhale, you're connecting deeper and deeper into the earth. Now allowing the image of that light to fade. You're still holding on to all that energy. You're just going to shift your attention away from the visualization and focusing on thinking, I belong. I have a right to be here. have what I need. I have a right to have my needs met. I have a right to exist. I have a right to be safe. I have a right to feel safe. In this moment, I am safe. In this moment, I am here. In this moment, I am. Take a deep cleansing breath through your nose, let it out through your mouth with a maybe try that one more time. Deep inhale through the nose, let it out with a sigh. Gently open your eyes, bring your attention back into this room, back into this moment, back into your life. And see if you can go through the rest of your day feeling grounded and stable. And if every time you take a step, if maybe you walk on the earth a little more sure of yourself, a little more confident that you belong and that you have the right to be there. Have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you back here soon. Namaste.